Peace FM 104.3. Good to meet you.
Say, Jaya can budget. I mean, here, I'm Professor Godfred Alufa Bokping is an economist, is a professor of finance and senior lecturer, University of Ghana Business School. Prof, good morning.
Hello, good morning. And good morning to your cherished listeners.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Prof, so let's say for those of us who don't really understand your area of expertise, that is finance, economics, economic planning, and what have you. From your point of view, what do you make of the budget?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you look at the 2023 budget, it's heavy on what we call austerity on one hand. And also heavy on expansionary on another hand, but I'll try and explain this.
Sure.
This country has gone through a number of crises. So 2012 to 2015, energy crisis. Then we walked into financial sector crisis. Then we walked into COVID-19, a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Then Russia, Ukraine. Now, all these crises have left some impact on our economy. And in our attempt to resolve it, we accumulate debt. So our public debt has been rising. That comes along with certain challenges. Now, because the real sector of the economy really hasn't expanded the way it should, particularly the non-oil real sector, you will see that whilst government expenditure has been rising, sometimes to contain the crisis and all of that, the revenue side has not responded in that same way. For instance, between 2013 and 2020, the size of our economy, measured that by GDP, nearly 20% of that came from mining.
I see.
Now, if you put the extractive sector alone together, whilst the majority of the growth came from that side, employment generation from that side actually fell.
Oh.
So Ghana has been celebrating some kind of economic growth or GDP that does not come along with job creation. Now, if you look at the extractive sector, the fiscal regime that we are implementing in the extractive sector does not benefit Ghana optimally. It does not.
I see.
If you look at how much Ghana gets from the extractive sector annually as a percentage of the extractive sector value addition to our GDP, it's just around 19%. Our middle income peers are getting close to 54%. So that tells you why our revenue will remain low.
I see.
Now, the result of that is that we have seen positive growth, but we have not seen sufficient growth.
Positive growth, but not sufficient growth.
Yes. But we have celebrated jobless growth. Now, when you see that, it means that the redistribution of wealth is weakened. That growth only benefit a tiny few at the top.
But then, Prof, how did we get here? Jobless growth?
Yes, it's because of the way we have structured our economy. We don't put we some of the contract and the negotiations we give out and how we manage our natural endowment. This is what God has given us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to work for it.
Okay.
This country wake up one day with oil, gold, diamonds, and all of that. Countries in Europe and elsewhere who had such natural endowment, they managed it optimally. And then, look, let me give you another example.
Sure.
From independence, our economy was largely reliant on agriculture. Now, service sector is what is leading. But the service sector that is leading now is actually not leading along quality job creation areas. So you have wholesale retail absorbing. So you have a lot of people who are getting maybe low-hanging jobs more in the service sector. A good number of them are even not on formal contract, not paying taxes, and the rest of them. Okay, let's fast forward.
Okay.
Now then COVID came, and how we managed COVID manifested explicitly also in debt formation. And because COVID coincided with 2020 election, the fiscal slippages, the excess spending in 2020 could easily be blamed on COVID, whilst you actually have to blame it on the 2020 election. So the 2020 fiscal deficit, which was a pandemic year, compared to our neighbors, or the basis of comparison, you can look at it with respect to your regional peers like Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Nigeria, in terms of how much, because the COVID did not only affect Ghana.
Yes.
If you look at the average for these countries, it was less than 8%. Ghana did in excess of 15%. Now, if you look at our debt build-up today, which the reality that you see now in the 2023 budget, we'll get there very soon. I'm just trying to build a certain background.
Mm-hmm.
The debt that you see today, two things have contributed to it strongly. The fiscal deficit, in other words, we spend in excess of how much we are able to generate. Actually, there is nothing wrong with recording fiscal deficit. What is wrong about it is about the size, the consistency, and the financing mechanism, and the source of the deficit. If a country generates deficit that is traceable to the real sector of the economy, then it means that deficit would enhance the cash flow generation capacity of the economy. Because the deficit is an indication of the borrowing requirement of the government. So we often say in Economist, fiscal unsustainability is intricately linked to debt unsustainability. If you fail to manage your fiscal side very well, it is explained through borrowing. So even the government says they will not borrow, you don't need to take that. Just look at it whether they are running a budget deficit, because that budget deficit will be explained through borrowing.
I see.
Now, because we have not been able to transform this Gettysburg inherited economy from 1957. What is that Gettysburg inherited economy? It was an economy that was predicated on producing raw materials with practically no value addition, and just export that to feed growing industries in Europe or in the global north. After so many decades of independence, we have not been able to transform this. So as we speak, more than 80% of Ghana's export earnings, right, come from primary commodities with practically no value addition. Gold, oil, cocoa. The world thrives on margins. So if you are not adding value, you cannot elicit margins.
But Prof, don't we know this?
We knew this before we even gained independence.
So how come we are still where we are?
And that is why we are going through these challenges. You know, we talk, but we are unable to walk our talk. We have good intentions, and we're unable to translate those good intentions into accomplishment in a demonstrable, measurable manner.
Peace FM 104.3. Would you mean